Hi, good evening. Welcome to the John Gaunt broadcast. Tonight, we're talking about Starmer. Again, I apologise, but for the sake of the country, for all our security, and for the sake of our people who are most vulnerable, he's got to sack Reeves. He has got to sack Rachel Reeves today or tomorrow. This woman is no longer a joke. This woman is dangerous. Look, there she is. If you're watching it on the telly or on your computer, I say this woman is probably the most dangerous woman we've had in government for years. She has single-handedly wrecked the economy. And yesterday, in her big, long speech, what do they call it? The spring statement. It didn't spring at all. There was no bounce back. There wasn't even a dead cat bounce because he is dead in the water. And if Starmer's not careful, he will be as well. Starmer, to save his own political career, needs to stop hobnobbing with Macron and the useless coalition in Europe, get behind Trump, but also get rid of Rachel Reeves. She is a joke, a very, very sick joke. Yesterday, she never once took responsibility for her actions. It's her budget that has put us in this position. She basically went for broke. She gambled, as the opposition said, although I noticed the biased speaker told him to shut up and not to use that unparliamentary language. Well, what other language can you use for a woman who bet everything effectively on red? Is that Labour's colour still? And lost. She lost the blooming lot. She is a joke. She's been obviously using Diane Abbott's abacus because she just can't add up. And then this morning, after refusing to apologise in any way, shape or form, she blamed Donald Trump. Well, he's only been in power 8 weeks. How can that be anything to do with your budget that was the best part of 9 months ago, Rachel? She blamed everyone. Of course, she blamed the Tories, saying there's 14 years of misrule. Well, there's a bit of credibility in what she's saying. And of course, she blamed the black hole, the 24 billion pounds, which she says she didn't know about. Well, if she didn't know about it, why did she give the doctors, the nurses, other public sector workers money on day one, almost on day zero, as soon as they got elected? Surely you would have got into power, checked the scenario, and then decided if you could afford it. Not Rachel. She spent money like Viv Nicholson on speed, as I've said before, but it's not her money. And this is the problem. She's been playing fast and loose with our cash, and she's broken it. She's knackered it. She's got it wrong. Starmer, you must sack her. If you want to join in, by the way, the comments section is open. Just join in. Make a comment on there. You can be listening or watching on Twitter, Facebook, or indeed on YouTube. All your comments come through, and I'll add them into the debate tonight. I'm not going to hang around for too long because this subject literally makes me want to vomit. I cannot believe we've got her in power. That's before we go on to the tickets and the freebies and the fact that she lied on her CV. I'll call her a liar because that's what I think she is. This morning, she was back on the telly, and it was one of those cliched, we should have a competition each day. What's the cliche they're going to stand in front of today? Yesterday, as she delivered her speech, she stood in front of a tank because that was one of her excuses. Because of Ukraine, along with Trump, she has had to spend more money. It's all just errant nonsense. No one wants our troops on the ground. We've given Ukraine enough. We want peace, and we want Trump to deal with the peace with Putin. But no, we've decided we're backing Zelensky. And according to Keir Starmer, we're fully behind them. Well, I'm not. I want peace. What about you? And I want people to stop taking the peace out of us. And I want a Chancellor who puts us first. I don't want to, as I keep saying, to hear our veterans, our heroes on the streets screaming and shouting with post-traumatic stress with nowhere to live. I don't want our young people not being able to get a house, whether it's social housing or one that they buy, because all of the economic migrants are in them. The people who have broken into our country. We're looking after them more than we're looking after our own. I'm sorry. As I said, 2 podcasts away, you have to, with charity, it has to start at home. But let's go back to her on telly. In front of a tank yesterday. Today, she stood there in front of a house. I think it was a David Wilson house. I used to own one of them. She stood in front of a house being built on some building site somewhere. I think it was in Cardiff. I don't know whether she had the hard hat on in all of the things, but in all the interviews, but she needs it on because of the flack that's coming in. Universally, everybody has said her speech yesterday was dreadful. And now everyone's come to the realization that this so-called economist, CV fiddler, I'd call her, this so-called CV fiddler can't add up. She's absolutely dropped the ball, he says, mixing his metaphors. She must go. And not a word of apology yesterday, as she decided, well, we've ripped off the farmers, we've ripped off the students, we've lied in our manifesto on every single page. Let's go a step further now, and now let's attack those with disabilities, the vulnerable and the elderly, the most needy in our country. Let's really attack them, because do you think she's going to go after the big tax dodgers like Google and Amazon and eBay, all those people? No chance. She's going to, and her globalist mates, no chance. She'll be looking for a nice comfy job with them once she gets the bullet, which is what always happens in politics. She is not interested in you and I. Cost of living has gone through the roof. And this woman, the freebie queen, as I've called her, doesn't give an SH1T. Am I being unfair, or do you think I'm right? And I've got to say, I watched all the channels today, GB News, all their breakfast shows, and the BBC. And the BBC, Charlie State, or whatever his name is, he had a right pop at her. And he was also firing questions at her from an audience in Sheffield. She had no answers. All she could do was trot out the sound bites, the deficit, the world's changing, i.e. it's Donald Trump's fault. Well, it's not. It's just nonsense. Why are we, the British public, putting up with this? This is a classic example of us being treated like mushrooms, kept in the dark, and fed BS. You know what I mean. We have got to say enough is enough, Rachel. Get back to accounts. Get back to wherever you pretended you worked before, because you are simply not fit to be the Chancellor of the Exchequer. You are a disgrace. I haven't even got on, and I'm going to in a minute, into freebie gate, but I want your views. Come on, anybody want to say anything this evening? Do you agree Rachel Reeves must be sacked? There's no way that Starmer is going to cling on to power with her. I know he's got a majority, and I know everyone says therefore he can't be moved, but listen, he's losing I think he's lost the confidence of the British public. He's lost the dressing room. It only needs a few of those backbench MPs to start to rebel. And if any of them have got a conscience, they will rebel, because surely they didn't go into politics and be part of the Labour Party to be cutting benefits and welfare to the most vulnerable. That, I mean, no matter what you think of Labour or what you think of socialism, they didn't want to do that. And Reeves, and indeed Sir Keir Starmer, have pushed themselves into that position. And I'll tell you what, she could have said yesterday, I'm going to really now attack the migrant problem. I am going to stop spending £5.5 million a day on hotels for these people. I'm going to do what Gaunty said yesterday or the day before, and I'm going to put them in army barracks, old army barracks, or I'm going to put them in tents, in field tents, like the army used when they're on exercise. As I keep saying, and it's becoming a cliche, if it's good enough for our boys, it's surely good enough for illegal immigrants. And don't start, they are illegal because they've entered the country without permission. They are illegal, and we need to crack down on them. And we can't afford it. How she can have, excuse me, the barefaced cheek to stand there and basically steal the money of pensioners, older people, vulnerable people, and of course the hospitality trade. Because come April, hospitality will be totally and utterly on its knees. Why? Because of the national insurance hikes. But yeah, I'll take it a penny off a pint. The national insurance hikes, the minimum wage, or whatever she calls it, the working wage, which she's not paying. She makes out as if she and Keir Starmer are actually putting their hands in their pocket and paying it. It's the people who run the pubs, the small business owners, the hotels, the catering trade. And she's going to wreck it. This country, there won't be, people keep saying, well, she'll be back in the autumn or revising her figures. Well, we could well be right up the creek without a paddle, without even a canoe, the way we're going. Starmer needs to act now. And if a Starmer won't act, we, the public, must act. We need this woman gone. We need Starmer gone as well, but that's a separate issue. Greg Galvin says, evening, John. Evening, Greg. You're the first on board tonight. Thank you very much indeed. Let's have your comments. If you think I'm being too harsh on Rachel, then please tell me. Let's just have a chat about Freebiegate. Only last week, it all merges, doesn't it? In the last couple of days, she admitted she took £600 worth of tickets to go and see Sabrina Carpenter. It wasn't for her. A 46-year-old woman like her doesn't need to see Sabrina Carpenter. It was for a family member. I presume that means her child. Well, I don't know about you. I don't want to be subsidising her kids to go to concerts, and I don't want her kids to be getting free tickets. There's no reason on God's earth why that should happen. But just like Starmer with the free suits, the glasses, the lingerie, all suits you, sir, they just think they can do it. They are just taking the mick. Meanwhile, cost of living is kicking in, and interest rates are going to go through the roof. I know they've just slightly come down, but it's unsustainable what she's doing. There's going to be mass unemployment. Even the audit people said yesterday 250,000 people are going to be pushed into poverty with the actions that she came out with yesterday. And she stands there with that thick, rictus grin on her face and that slight speech impediment. I'm not having a go at her, but it's true. She's pathetic. She doesn't inspire any confidence. She sounds like a female Rick Mail in The Young Ones. And when she trots out the excuses or she trots out the sound bites, literally, I want to throw up. She should have apologized. She got her figures wrong in the budget, in her first budget. She should have apologized for that. Everybody could see. Everybody knows she got it wrong. But she has no humility. It's a bit like Miliband with the energy. All of them have got this arrogance. I don't know what it's based on, because they haven't been in government for 14 years. They haven't been anywhere near the levers of power. And they've got in because Rishi and the Tories were so dreadful, of course. They somehow think they're Superman and Superwoman. And this woman in particular is very dangerous because she's got this idea that she is somehow special. That's why she altered her CV. There was no need to alter her CV. Here's a pretty good track record as it was. But she's made out she was an economist for longer than she was. She made out she had this particular job at the Bank of Scotland when actually she was one step up from a call centre. No, a bit more than that, I accept that. But she wasn't what she said she was. Why did she need to elaborate? Why did she need to lie? What deep psychological reason would do that? Well, maybe because she's got no real confidence. On the telly this morning, she looked like a rabbit caught in the headlights of a car. And in fact, that's a bit unfair to cars and to rabbits. She was petrified this morning because she knows she's being found out. As mentioned earlier, John, I own a business and do not want to give pay rises due to the NI increases. I bet you can't even afford them, can you, Greg? That's on Facebook. Don't forget, you can comment on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. And if you're listening later on a podcast or indeed on a replay on the video, thanks very much. Spread the word, share the video, share the podcast, and please press the like button and the subscribe button so then you won't miss any. There won't be a broadcast tomorrow. I'm going to one of my closest friends' funeral. It's going to be a very sad day, but it's also going to be a great day celebrating a wonderful man. I might talk about it more next week. I've been meaning to say I'll do a podcast on it, but if I'm honest, I've been too upset about the situation. But that's where I am tomorrow. You won't hear from me tomorrow. Let's move on. Good evening, John. Will Britain survive the next 4 years? We're doomed. That's a comment on YouTube from Del Boy. Thank you, Del. If this works today at this 7 o'clock start, by the way, I might start doing all my broadcasts at this time. Tell me whether you think that's a good idea or not. Nigel Gordon says they go into politics to line their pockets. We have Daisy Cooper as our MP. She's a Lib Dem, isn't she? She gets voted in, but we never see her. Gone to line her pocket. It will never change. It's always been the same. Well, I don't know about her in particular, my friend. I know which one she is. But I think the problem is once they get there, it's kind of, as I keep saying, pigs, snouts in trough, huge wages, huge. They just had a pay increase as well. Don't forget, get that. They've got a pay increase, and it's the expenses. I think it's the expenses that corrupt them. Then that allows them to think, well, yeah, I should get a freebie. I'm going to be honest with you. I went to see, who's that little lad that all the kids loved? Were my little ones little? Zac Efron, something like that. I went to the premiere of that. It was at the Dome in London. I got free tickets because I was on the radio at the time. I didn't hide it. I told everyone I got them. But the reason they gave me free tickets was because they knew I had kids. And they knew if my kids liked it, I'd talk about it. And I've often thought about it. Zac Efron, it's corrupt, isn't it? There's such a fine line between hospitality and being nice. I mean, I've had freebies for the football. I'm going to be straight with you. When I was a somebody, as they call it, although I'm a happier person now, you did get free things. But you know what? If I ever got back there, I don't think I'd take them. I think I'd make it a policy. No, I'm not taking it. But there's a big difference between a fat shock jock like Gaunty and a Chancellor of the Exchequer or an MP. No MPs should be taking freebies. If it was the opening of a new theatre in a constituency and they wanted the local MP there, that's something different. But not tickets to see Sabrina Carpenter. And today it came out, or yesterday, that she's also taken some free theatre tickets. It's outrageous. What gives them the right to think they can be treated differently to the rest of them? I think the first abuse of our money, I remember, was the moat house for the ducks. So I don't think it's ever going to stop. It was before then. But yeah, that was the big one. That was the expenses scandal. Yeah, I'll tell you a story about that. The expenses scandal, the people who broke that, they tried to give the story to lobby journalists, and they wouldn't touch it because they didn't want to upset their pals in Parliament. You know, I keep telling you this. They're all so close, all the political people. So you'll never get anyone really putting a politician on the spot. This is all part of the corruption of mainstream media and the establishment politicians. So I remember the Moat House one. You're right. That was the big expense. They were all doing their expenses. Well, and if that's the culture, that will just carry on. You're probably right, Greg. I don't think I'll ever stop, he says. Are they still allowed a certain amount of expenses without receipts? Yes. If so, that's just criminal. Yeah, and don't forget, of course, they also get all their heating paid for, and they go first class on the train, and they don't pay for that. See, all of this makes them different to us, and I really don't think that should happen. I really don't. We've got to reconnect them. I don't mind them earning a decent salary. It's quite a difficult job, and it's quite full on, isn't it? So I don't mind them even if it's 90 or 100 grand. I can cope with that. What I can't cope with is the abuse, the money on top. When we have got people at the moment who are in charge of these cuts, but they're not paying their lecky bill or their gas bill. It's being picked up by us, the British taxpayer. How can that be right? And I'd say this about Tories, I'd say this about Lib Dems, and I'd say it about, obviously, about Labour at the moment. And also, don't forget, Starmer got into power promising he wasn't going to be like this. It was going to be change. This picture I've got of Rachel, it's off one of her leaflets. At the bottom, it says, vote change. There's been no change. They're just as bad. Maybe not as bad as the Tories, but give them time. The Tories had 14 years. Richard Holland says, he who dares, my son, on YouTube. Don't really get that, my friend, but you might want to expand on it. Greg then's come back on. He says, freebies are only the tip of the iceberg. Can you imagine the brown envelopes? Well, that's something different, isn't it? And, of course, that has gone on in the past. They get passed around the big companies for lobbying the MPs. It goes down to the councillors going on their Algarve golf trips for access to green spaces to build houses. Oh, you are cynical. But, yeah, I know what you mean. So the only way, because this line, as I say, is so close between legitimate hospitality, looking after people, and wheeling the wheels of industry, so to speak, maybe it would just be best if we say no freebies whatsoever. I remember it happened at the BBC. There was all sorts of trouble at the BBC when I worked at BBC London, and suddenly they scrapped. You couldn't have any prizes. Any prizes you gave, you have to, have the right reason. You couldn't do pre-recorded shows where people could ring in and after the competition had ended. I mean, it went so far. It was unbelievable. And at the time, I thought it was ridiculous. But as I've got older, should I say, and also I think since my fall from grace, I have questioned it. And, when I was on Talk Sport, it was like Freebie City. We got loads of freebies. When I worked for The Sun, you got loads of freebies. It was almost like being a queen. You never paid for anything. You didn't have to carry cash. I got Sky TV. I don't know whether I've ever told you this. I've been a Sky TV customer for 20 odd years, but for the majority of those years, I never paid for it. Now, don't get all shock, horror, and clutch your pearls. Most people who are any good on the radio or the telly were in the same position as me. They got free Sky TV. I wonder why. But don't get me wrong. I think Sky have revolutionised telly. I pay it now. Well, I'm about to stop paying it, but I do pay at the moment. But I think it's looking back at it, it's kind of corrupt, isn't it? So maybe I was part of the problem. Well, I think I was part of the problem. But I would just say I am not an MP. I'm not representing other people, and I'm not making laws for other people. But certainly, we've got to think about this. Public servants should not be taking any freebies. And she's still not really said why she took the pop tickets. She's played the thing about it was for a family member, i.e. it's for my child. Don't you dare question it. It's my child. It's just wrong. It's just completely and utterly wrong. And then, of course, Starmer, he gave back the money that he got for the Taylor Swift tickets, what they were worth. But what about the suits? Why do people who are on over 100 grand have to have other people buying their clothes for them? It makes no sense. This is a good point from Nigel. He says, corruption makes the world go round. Well, you're kind of right, Nigel. You're kind of right. Hospitality, where's the line? And then we have the temerity to slag off countries like Nigeria or African countries or South American countries. Oh, they're all on the take. Well, I was at quite a high level, and I think there was quite a lot of it in this country as well. I don't mean out and out corruption. I mean this whole idea of, take him to the Grand Prix. Take him to Wembley. I would love to have an audit of Wembley and find out how many people are paying and how many get freebies off Wembley Stadium or the promoters. Because, there's Oasis coming up. I wonder how many people are getting freebies for that. And it does matter if it begins to seep into politics. I think it really matters. But I think with Rachel Reeves, what matters even more is that she's a dullard. She obviously can't do the job. So why is she being kept in position? Now, normally I wouldn't care. Labour, great. That means they'll be out of power soon, whatever. But as we know, the problem with Labour the problem with politics is the calibre of the people on both sides of the house. So I don't think Labour are going to be out of power. So I think we're going to get loads of this over the next 4 or 5 years. Look, we had 14 years of it. This is where I'm not being party political. We had 14 years of it with the Tories. Look what they were getting away with that we know about. Something has got to change. They're there to serve us, not the other way round. And especially when we're on the verge of maybe World War III. When Starmer has taken it upon himself to send them, our boys, into Ukraine. Did you see them all walking up the path today, trying to look like reservoir dogs? Reservoir pigs, more like. My mate was there, the Finnish president. Who do they think they are? And they're talking about getting even tougher on Putin. I bet that was really making his bum cheeks clang, don't you? They couldn't tear a tissue together. They couldn't tear the arm off an action man. Why are they doing this with Billy Big Boots? Well, mainly because it won't be their children dying in Ukraine. I don't want a war with Russia. Do you? And I don't want corrupt politicians. And I don't want them taking tickets for Taylor Swift or whatever this woman's called, Carpenter. And Rachel Reeves, you still haven't explained. And then your sums don't add up. And you've attacked the very vulnerable members of our society. And you've attacked hospitality. You could have done something for hospitality. Or there's another classic. My friend who's just passed away, Nick, he did so much for Acorns Hospice, the one in Birmingham. And he raised loads of money for people who got cancer and the rest of it, and the kids' hospice there and the grown-up one, the adult one. But hospices, they're going to be hammered by this NI thing. There's no exemption. They haven't said, oh, well, we won't have the NI hike if you work in a hospice, or we won't have it for young kids going into the workforce in hospitality. It's across the board. It's just outrageous. Regina says they seem to forget that they work for us. Too right. What's this one? Chopper MK50. They shouldn't just stop their freebies. They shouldn't be allowed to have any external business interests. You should become an MP because you want to serve your country. Remuneration shouldn't be a factor. I kind of agree with you, Chopper. But then again, I do want them to be in the real world. So if you've got a situation where there are only very wealthy people or aristocrats, like Rupert Lowe, lots of people applaud him because he gives away all his salary, which, good on him. But he can only afford to do that because he's a very rich guy. You don't want 600 Rupert Lowes in Parliament, though. Do you follow where I'm coming from? You don't just want the landed gentry, do you? You have to have a cross-section. So I'm not so sure about that. The one thing I would definitely stop is when ministers, they're meant to leave a year or 6 months or something, say they were in charge of the NHS, or health minister, they shouldn't get a job with a drugs company. However, they all do, don't they? We've all seen this happening. Being MP, you might not earn, well, you'll earn good money, but you're not going to become a millionaire. But at the end of it, you probably will. Certainly if you're the Prime Minister. That's the thing I don't really like. So I'm not sure I'd necessarily stop second jobs, but I'd certainly want an audit of how much time they're spending on the job, the main job. And we need to professionalise it. Let's have proper sitting hours rather than all this nonsense at the moment. It's just completely open to corruption. Chris Ashmore just got here. Tickets, hospitality, and the number of people needed to protect one individual or the family at an event. Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but she could have gone to that event and no one would have known who she was, Chris. There's a load of nonsense about this. Ever since Starmer pulled the I can't sit in the stands because I'm so important. If you're in the directors area, right, you don't need to be in a box. I just think it's rubbish. I just think they like this. It's this idea all animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others. We've got to stop it in some way, shape or form. But let's just keep on Rachel Reeves. She is sending us to hell in a handcart. She will be back later this year and she will raise your taxes. She is going to lead us to a situation where we're all skint. Well, I'm skint anyway, but even more skint than we are. She hasn't got a clue. And I don't think Starmer's got a backbone to sack her, because if he sacks her, then questions will be starting to ask about him. 11% of people have confidence in Rachel, only 11%. She's never satisfactorily answered why she lied on her CV, why she falsified her LinkedIn account. And look at the smirk on her. Look at her. But yesterday and this morning, she did look petrified, because some Labour MPs have discovered their backbone and are starting to brief against her. But who will he replace her with? Who would we replace Labour with? This is the complication. I'm going to leave it there, because then I'm going to go and have something to eat, have an early night, got this funeral tomorrow. I'll be back. I'll do one on Saturday, but it's all pretty depressing, isn't it? If you've got any suggestions, get in touch with me via YouTube. Don't forget the YouTube channel is John Gaunt TV. Get in touch with me on Twitter. Get in touch with me on Facebook. But tell me what you think. And tell me what you think about a 7 o'clock start. I have messed you around the last few weeks as I got used to the technology, but I need to go to a permanent time. And I think that's what I will do soon. Maybe 7 o'clock every night. Well, it'll be Monday to Thursday. It won't be a Friday, because no one's in on a Friday. Okay, so that's me finished. If you've got kids, give them a kiss, give them a hug. Don't forget to tell them you love them. And if you can help me out with a small donation, feel free. It's called www.buymeacoffee.com/John Gaunt. Thanks for listening to me. Sorry that you've been given 2 today. Hey, but 2 for the price of 1. Not bad, eh? Regina's clapping me. Thank you. And Nigel says, good luck tomorrow, John. Well, it's not me who needs the luck, mate, is it? But we'll be remembering a very special man, a very, very special man, Mr. Coventry himself. So I'll be doing that tomorrow. All right, then. I'll see you later. If you have got kids, give them a kiss, give them a hug. Don't forget to tell them you love them. See ya.